computer and technology concepts. So we'll just get right into it. So first of all, do you guys have it? How good of an understanding of do you have of what technology is? So give me an example of technology, or what do you think technology is?
Any of you?
What?
A TV.
Yeah, a TV is a good idea. But so anyone else? You guys have any concept? No.
I mean,
Hannah?
It's basically electronic.
Yeah, a lot of times it's electronic. Yeah. Okay, so technology is any scientific advancement that's used to make for practical purposes. So it's used to better our lives or make our lives easier. So I would say. So I would say the biggest, obviously in our lives, the biggest technological advancement is the computer. So that's something we all use, and we rely upon it very heavily. I mean, we have phones. So I mean, phones are just little computers, right? Because they can go on the internet, they can go do all that. And so we have computers, we have laptops. I mean, y'all with COVID, we've seen that a lot of people have started doing stuff online, with Zoom meetings and stuff like that. And so we rely on it pretty heavily, and it's a pretty big part of our lives. Okay, so how do y'all use technology? Do you guys during your everyday, when you go to school or after school when you come home? What do y'all do? Yeah.
On the computer.
Yeah. Do you guys play video games and stuff? Yeah, Minecraft, or what do y'all play? Animal Crossing? What is it?
Animal Crossing's on the Nintendo.
Well, a Nintendo is a piece of technology.
Well,
Yeah.
and in 1950, a TV would have been a serious piece of technology. It's just that now it's so commonplace that it's not like what we think of when you think of technology. But in 1950, it was a really big deal, right?
Yeah. So, what were we gonna say, Emma? Okay. Yeah. So we use technology in a lot of aspects of our life. So y'all probably not as much because y'all younger, but y'all still do play video games. And when y'all go to school, don't y'all get on the computer and learn stuff on the computer? Yeah. So as you get older, I mean, obviously you can start to get integrated more, because I'm sure that most of your parents, when they go to work, they work on computers, and they do all of their work through the internet, and it's just a very rapid way of communicating with other people. It makes it very easy to do your work and then share it with others. So it's a giant part of our lives, and it's really important. So just like other parts of our lives too, we have to be safe and follow rules to make sure that we don't get hurt or in trouble. So we follow rules. And just like that, on the internet, we have to follow certain rules and regulations to make sure that we end up safe, because it is such a big part of our lives. Okay, the internet. Does anyone have an idea of what the internet is? Okay. Yeah, here, you go first.
When sometimes you're at McDonald's, you don't have internet. If you want to watch Netflix, you have to have internet for that. Going at your house, you have a passcode and you can watch it there.
Yeah, that's what we use the internet for,
The internet is it's where you can go upload things, you can go search things up. It's like a live stream, basically a live stream of stuff, basically, just
Yeah.
we are not there.
So those are both good answers, and they're both right. They're correct. So the internet is. So we all have computers. There's computers all around, right? We have the phones, we have our computers, and there's something called servers. And servers are just computers that hold a lot of information. So we have computers all over the world, and all of these computers interact with each other to send information to one computer to another. So I can share my information from my computer to another. And this is done through something called, all information throughout the internet is sent in something called a packet. So basically what that is so if I were to speak to you, I'm speaking to you and you're understanding me, so we communicate through English, right? That's our language, right? So a computer, we put there's a mathematical algorithm, so we put in information into the computer, and then it translates it to computer talk, which is binary, which is little ones and zeros, and it's all electrical little things. And it goes to the computer, and then that's what the computer understands, right? And so once it puts it in something called a packet, it's all this information that we put into the computer, and then it can be transferred from each computer to another. And so this is probably a little beyond the scope of what you guys need to know, but I'm sure your parents pay something called an internet service provider. So like AT&T or DirecTV, and I'm sure they've been on the phone with them and they're like, oh my God, why is our internet not working? Why can't we watch Netflix, right? It's because they're not doing their job very well, right? So they have these things, they have the giant servers, right? And so you send them a request to like access this information, and then they send out like a request to get the packets back for the information you want. So when there's no internet, it's because you're not connected to these other computers to be able to get the information back that you need. So you can't watch Netflix because you can't see all, you can't communicate with the other computers, right? Right.
There's sequences of codes, basically.
Yeah,
Just
so-
like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That
So
gets sent.
we can do something real
So
quick.
like the word "the" has a certain series, and it all has to get put in for the computer to translate it.
Yeah,
It's like
so-
a foreign. It's like a foreign language.
So like, let's say the computer's talking like Spanish, right? They don't. They talk in like this little like math like numbers and stuff. Like it's much more complicated. But let's say this computer spoke in Spanish and we speak in English. So if I were to put in the computer like hello, then the computer would translate it to hola, and that's how it would get my message to another computer. Because other computers don't understand my message. They have to translate it first. And then it can go from this computer to that computer to this computer. So it has to be able to be in something the computer can understand to transfer to all the other computers. That way it can get from my computer to your computer, from that computer to my computer. You understand? It's kind of confusing, but that's just a general idea of what you need to know. It comes from this, I can upload something on my computer, but then it can be transferred to someone else's computer so they can see that same information. Okay. That's pretty much all we need to know, but let's talk more about the computer. So, do you guys know anything about the computer? Like what makes up a computer? Like when you get on the computer, what makes it? Like what are the parts of the computer?
One of the parts are the keys on the computer.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Like the mouse you have.
Yeah. Okay.
The hard drive.
The hard drive. That's good. Yeah. So what you two said, those are called input devices. So we have the monitor, right? So this is like the monitor from the computer. So we're seeing what's in the computer. So that's why you can see what the computer's doing. It's called a graphical user interface. And then you have the keys, and that's how you type in, the messages, like Anna. You have your mouse, you can click on different things. The hard drive is what stores all the information. So it stores all the little computer information, so all the ones in the little zeros on the hard drive from all the stuff you've done, right? But that's local to the machine, so that doesn't go to the other computers unless you tell it to. But it stores all the information from the computer right there. Okay, and then there's something called the CPU, which is the processor. So that's what does all the math. It does all the math to turn all the little ones and zeros into stuff that we can understand. So that's basically what powers the computer. And then there's something else called the power supply, which just gives power to the general computer. And then there's called instant memory, called RAM. So it's called random access memory. So it's little memory that we can use when it's not being stored on the hard drive. It's a little bit, again, beyond the scope of what you all need to know, but just interesting. And then there's the motherboard. And the motherboard is what puts all of these pieces together and combines them so that way it works cohesively. So it connects the power supply to the processor and connects the hard drive to the processor and connects the power supply to the hard drive. And it all comes together and it forms one central computer. So again, like I said, we don't really, for the first badge, you don't really need to talk much about actual cybersecurity rules. We just need to know that the internet is very powerful, and so you should obviously treat it with respect. And so if there's something you don't know, you should always ask your parents. And if you're having trouble with it, you should just obviously ask your parents. Because again, it's kind of confusing, and it can be unsafe if you guys don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
Can I give an example? So there was this kid in my school. He showed me a picture of something inappropriate. That would probably been
Pulled up
the
Momo.
wrong thing to do with the internet.
Yeah, and then pulled everybody over to.
Yeah, I mean,
take a look.
yeah, exactly. That's
then
what I'm
she's
saying.
like,
The
yeah.
internet has infinite. It can store infinite amount of stuff. It's got, there's thousands of computers. So there's so much information on the internet that you should know just to be careful and to not go on parts of the internet that you shouldn't without your parents' permission. because there's a lot of different stuff that you can look up, and then there's a lot of information, right? And you guys are young, so you don't need access to everything.
Do you ever give any of your personal information on the computer?
No.
No, not without your parents' permission.
Never. You don't give your phone number, your address, or your real name even.
Even if like you friend somebody like
Yeah.
on Fortnite, they seem really friendly.
Yeah,
No.
unless you know them in person.
Yeah.
On some games it asks you for what your name is, so just make up a random name. I always
Yeah.
put like, I don't know.
What's your fake name?
I just put up a nickname. I don't
Do
know.
you use the same one or a different one?
I always just make up a name every time.
If you don't know them in person, then you don't know them. So,
Smart.
Yeah, and that goes into what the next one is. That's like the cybersecurity like topic. So that way it goes into like, you know, how to be safe on the internet and how to be safe on different video games, you know, social media platforms and all that. But this first one's really just understanding how the internet works, that way you know what's going on when you talk about cybersecurity. So we can learn that next time. Yeah.
Awesome.
You guys play like what do you guys play your video games on? Like the phone, or like you have like an Xbox or something? What?
I play on my husband's
Bless you.
Okay. Any of y'all?
I play on my Nintendo tablet and
Yeah. Yeah, so those are all computers too. So like
Yeah.
those are
Kindle.
they're just really small. And that's like
This
that's
is-
been something, yeah. So that's interesting. Like you want to know something interesting? You know, back when we landed on the moon about 50 years ago, the computing power of all the computers they had was less than what's in your like Kindle or your tablet or your phone by like 10 times. It's like your phone has like 10 times the computing power of those computers that got us on the moon. So I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about.
But they got to the moon.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And back.
And they managed to not kill them, so
Yeah.
you know.
Cheers.
Awesome job.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.